What if I told you the last 10 years of your life were sketched out on a magazine cover you never really looked at?
Sounds like my dating history. Major events, zero reading of the fine print.
Every November, The Economist drops its annual special, The World Ahead. 10 big themes, one chaotic cover, and lots of men in blazers pretending they're not nervous. And this year's The World Ahead 2026 isn't just another issue. It's the 40th edition of their Year Ahead ritual. They've been publishing this thing every November since 1986.
So the forecast series turns 40, America turns 250, and my attention span turns to confetti. Iconic.
For 4 decades, this cover has been the mood board for the global elite, the what to worry about next cheat sheet for central bankers, CEOs, and ministers.
Meanwhile, you're out here doom-scrolling and arguing with strangers in the comments about whether avocado toast caused inflation.
This episode is just a first pass. Think of it as the initial X-ray of the 2026 cover. In the next days and weeks, we're going to slow down and zoom into each piece. NVIDIA and the brain with a controller, the shackled blue fist and America at 250, the red-blue color war, the Ozempic world, and the 2026 World Cup turning into a political circus.
Tonight, we're just walking around the crime scene. Later, we'll dust for fingerprints and maybe trauma.
So the real question isn't, is this secretly run by lizard people? The real question is this a forecast or a script? Are they describing the future or rehearsing us for it?
Because if your ex writes the plot and directs the movie, you're not seeing what happens next. You're just an unpaid extra.
Before we decode the art, let's answer your favorite conspiracy question. Who actually owns this thing? Big picture, the largest shareholder is Exor, the holding company of Italy's Agnelli family. They're behind brands like Ferrari, Stellantis, Juventus, and they hold a chunk plus of the Economist Group's capital with the maximum 20% voting block they're allowed.
So, your macro horoscope is literally brought to you by people who own sports cars, car companies, and a football club that emotionally shorts its own fans. Cute.
Then you've got old money families in the mix, including the Rothschilds, who've held about 26-27% of the company with roughly 20% of the voting rights. And here's the twist. As we're recording in late 2025, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild is in the middle of selling that entire stake, the biggest ownership shakeup in a decade.
40 years of the world ahead, and one of the founding boss families hits the eject button. Totally normal, definitely not the teaser trailer for season 2 of the simulation.
To keep it grounded, no single shareholder is allowed more than about 20% of the voting rights. That rule exists to protect editorial independence and stop one Bond villain buying the whole paper.
So instead of one Bond villain, you get a committee of them. Diversity and inclusion, baby.
Point is, this cover is not dropping out of a vacuum. It's coming from a room of people who win or lose real money and real power on the very trends they're drawing.
Before we dive any deeper down this rabbit hole, if you're enjoying your complimentary dose of elite mood board breakdown,
hit subscribe and tap like to show some love and fries to the channel.
Think of it as tipping your clowns in French fries. Costs you nothing, feeds the algorithm.
Let's earn the right to be suspicious. For the last decade, these World Ahead covers and essays have done something important. They're not crystal balls. They're trend amplifiers.
And amplifiers can be more dangerous than prophets. The prophet says, this might happen. The amplifier says, everyone important is now acting like it will.
Quick highlight reel. 2016, they were obsessed with populism, a fragile Europe, and U.S. politics going off the rails. Reality: Brexit. Trump elected. The cover didn't spell those names out, but it zoomed in on the right kind of chaos. Anti-establishment rage, broken trust, and a crumbling, rules-based order.
2016 was the year democracy texted, "New phone, who des?"
2017. They go full tarot card aesthetic. Cards for Trump's presidency, European elections, Brexit, risk of conflict. What followed? A stormy Trump presidency, populist pressure reshaping European politics, Brexit becoming a multi-season black comedy. Not exact dates and tickers, but very accurate stress points.
If a tarot reader told me Brexit, Trump, and Italian bonds, I'd block them. When The Economist does it, people buy framed covers.
From 2019 to 2022, they highlight pandemic risk, democracy versus autocracy, U.S.-China rivalry, massive energy investment, and higher bills. Then reality: COVID hits, Russia invades Ukraine, speeches go full democracy versus autocracy, U.S.-China rivalry hardens into chip bans, export controls, Europe gets an energy shock, and brutal utility bills. By 2023-25, they're banging on about managing a slower, more assertive China, living with a long war in Ukraine, juggling inflation, rates, AI capex, and climate politics. Look around. That's basically our news feed. If you'd only read those year-ahead issues, you'd have had a decent mental map of where the big fights would be.
If you like having the future decoded before it slaps you in the portfolio, smash like, hit subscribe, and show us some love and fries. The more fries you feed the algorithm, the more it lets us bully these covers in peace.
Now, reality check. These covers are not prophecy. Even The Economist says so. They were blindsided by COVID like everyone else. No page that said, "Global lockdown hits March, by Zoom and sourdough starters." In 2022, their own forecast scorecards talked about big misses on the timing and scale of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Translation? Even the people in blazers get rugged. The virus didn't check their editorial calendar.
Meanwhile, state TV and conspiracy channels love flashing old covers and shouting, "See? They predicted the virus and the war with hidden symbols." No, they did solid risk mapping, and then the internet reverse-engineered secret messages after events happened. So we hold two truths. One, they're often early on real themes. Two, they're not oracles. Some hits are real. Some are just people connecting dots backwards at 3 a.m.
It's like that friend who couldn't predict the exact breakup date, but definitely knew your relationship was a scam. Which is why I say, don't treat the 2026 cover as prophecy. Treat it as a narrative weapon. It tells powerful people what story they're living in for the next year.
So what story are they selling for 2026? Here's the lightning run. 2026, July 4th, 2026. 250 years of U.S. independence. On the cover, a big 250 and a shackled blue fist in front of the flag. Not just a birthday party, it's a midlife crisis for a superpower, split into parallel realities, culture wars, and another election cycle coming.
America at 250 is that uncle who says, "I'm fine," while buying a motorcycle, a fourth gun, and more NVIDIA calls.
We move from a neat rules-based order to messy coalitions of convenience. Everything becomes coalition of the willing again. Meanwhile, great powers test each other in the gray zone. The Arctic, shipping lanes and resources. Cyberspace, hacks, leaks, deepfakes. Undersea cables, the real nervous system. Formal war declarations are out. Deniable, reversible damage is in.
The world doesn't have a relationship status anymore. It has a situationship. Everyone's texting YUD to everyone else at 2 a.m. with sanctions.
Rich countries are living beyond their means. Translation: too much debt, higher interest rates, interest bills eating budgets. Add in tariffs and trade drama, an America that might flip policies overnight, and the scheduled end of Jerome Powell's term as Fed chair in May 2026. You get the risk of a bond market scare that forces governments to suddenly pretend they've found discipline.
Bond markets are like strict Asian parents. They let you mess around for years. Then one day you get a 30% correction and nobody's allowed to go out anymore.
The cover gives you a brain wired to a game controller next to a jagged stock chart. That's AI in 2026. Trillions in chips and data centers, usage exploding, everyone arguing if valuations are genius or delusion. If the AI capex bubble pops, AI doesn't disappear, but markets and a lot of white-collar career plans definitely get nerfed.
AI will probably take your job, but don't worry, it'll leave you a LinkedIn post about embracing change.
We're likely drifting past 1.5 degrees C, but emissions may have already peaked. They spotlight geothermal as a potential next big thing. Quiet, hot, deep earth baseload energy that could end up as important as nuclear or fusion hype.
The planet's like, I'm literally on fire, and humans are like, okay, but have we tried drilling hotter holes?
6. Sport, politics, and the 2026 World Cup. Here's your World Cup angle. 2026's tournament is coming to North America, the US, Mexico, Canada. Economist's angle. Not just sport, it's migration, infrastructure, labor, image management, corporate sponsorships, human rights debates, drug policies, and ticket rage economics. At the same time, you've got the enhanced games in Las Vegas. Athletes competing with open performance-enhancing drugs.
So on one side, FIFA pretending everything is pure and wholesome. On the other, enhanced games saying, let's stop lying and see what happens if we turn the lab dial to 11. Choose your dystopia. Sanitized hypocrisy or pharmacological honesty.
Drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy get cheaper and more common. Not just a pharma story. It hits food and beverage, healthcare budgets, insurance, dating apps, body image, and the definition of discipline.
Capitalism looked at self-control and said, what if we just chemicaled it? Instead of eat less, move more, it's tap card, inject, repeat.
Hook, all in one picture. So compress that. Polarized America at 250, fragmented geopolitics, fragile bond markets, AI mania, a heating planet, a North American World Cup, enhanced drugged-up games in Vegas, and an Ozempic world where appetite is a policy lever. Now squeeze it all into basically one picture. That's the 2026 cover.
It looks like FIFA, cyberpunk, and a pharmaceutical ad had a chaotic threesome, and you got the baby on glossy paper.
First symbol. Planet Earth, sliced like a soccer ball being kicked by a lone player. The world is a game, a spectacle. Crises aren't solved, they're kicked down the road. You're not on the pitch, you're in the stands, buying overpriced snacks.
You're not playing, babe. You're the targeted ad on the LED boards. Look at the colors. The palette is drenched in red and blue. Red versus blue as U.S. politics, Democrat versus Republican. Red versus blue as East versus West, Russia, China versus U.S. and allies. Red and blue pills. Choose your reality. Choose your coping mechanism. The palette itself says everything is binary. You're either team red or team blue, team east or west, team natural or enhanced.
Binary colors, binary thinking. No room for nuance, just jerseys, chants, and algorithm-approved rage. The system's kink is polarization. If they can paint you red or blue, they can sell you a war, an election, or a pill. Big blue fist rising in front of the American flag with handcuffs. It reads like, protest on a leash. American power constrained. Or citizens raising their fists in a system with pre-installed handcuffs.
It's activism, but with terms and conditions. Sure, you can march between these barricades at this time, sponsored by these brands.
The nastiest symbol. A human brain plugged into a game controller next to a jagged stock chart. Could be AI controlling human attention, life as gamified, streaks, quests, dopamine hits, or your mind thinking it's in charge while algorithms and incentives actually steer.
Your brain thinks it's the player. The algorithm sees it as the controller plugged into someone else's console. Press A for outrage, press B for despair. Microtransactions available in the in-app store.
3 icons, all damaged. $, money, judge's gavel, law, and ballot box, democracy, all cracked, leaking, stained. That's a triptych. Capital, law, democracy, all wobbling at the same time. The cover scatters. Red pills, blue pills, huge syringes as big as missiles. Surface level? Vaccines, Ozempic, public health. Deeper level? Chemistry as power, pharma as big as weapons, bodies as battlefields.
We used to joke red pill, blue pill as a metaphor. Now we literally have red and blue branded injections to regulate appetite, attention, and mood. You're not just a consumer, you're a chemical project.
Ring of satellites in orbit, drones buzzing overhead, robot dogs on the ground. That's the surveillance enforcement layer. Eyes in the sky, bots on the street, your data as the nervous system.
You're worried about your ex stalking your Instagram. Meanwhile, there's a robot dog with facial recognition and a taser doing cardio in your city.
Trump, Xi, Putin, Netanyahu, Zelensky, all drawn tiny, like figurines, crossing swords over a volatile chart. They matter, but they're not the biggest shapes on screen. The real big characters are systems, like capital flows, tech platforms, surveillance networks, pharmaceutical pipelines.
They drew world leaders like Funko Pops, cute, collectible, and ultimately owned by someone else.
Then you've got the conspiracy tier readings online. People mirror the cover and claim they see demonic faces near Trump. Others hunt for pentagrams, owls, Masonic geometry. A sword near a politician becomes an assassination omen. There's no solid evidence the editors are encoding literal occult messages or death threats. Most of that is 3 a.m. Rorschach.
To be fair, if you stare at anything long enough at 3 a.m., it turns into your ex or a demon or both. If there is a secret cabal, they need a better graphic designer.
So, zoom out. 40 years of the world ahead. 40 years of telling elites what the next year will feel like. Over just the last decade, these covers have flagged real macro trends early, like populism, US-China rivalry, energy crunch, AI anxiety. They've missed big shocks, like COVID's timing, Ukraine's full-scale invasion, and they've trained a certain class of reader to see the future as a collage of crises, not one clean story. And 2026 is the most crowded collage yet.
America turns 250 with a shackled fist. Debt, AI, and body-harking drugs all spike at the same time. Trade is a weapon, data is a weapon, your appetite is a weapon. And the world is literally a ball someone is about to kick for your entertainment.
Remember, this episode was just the opening file. A first examination, the wide shot. In the coming days and weeks, we're going to slow the frame down. One episode just on NVIDIA, AI, and the brain with a controller. One on the bond vigilantes and that broken dollar sign. One on the biopolitics of Ozempic, pills, and the enhanced games. One on the shackled fist and the American flag, protest, control, or both.
and one on the red-blue color code, how palettes train you to pick a side before you even know the rules.
If you want front row seats while we undress each symbol, the brain, the fist, the World Cup circus,
Make sure you subscribe, tap like to show some love and fries, and hit that little bell so the algorithm actually tells you when the next episode drops.
no fries, no notifications. That's just how the Klein gods work.
So, here's the question I want you to sit with until episode 2. Are you just watching the circus? Or are you being gently trained to clap on cue?
You've been listening to McFoolio
And McFolly. Welcome to the world ahead under a clown microscope.